How's it going, folks? CR here. Now, as promised in a previous channel update, I am going to be doing a video on games in a video gun and how they would function in real life. And I'm going to start off with The Last of Us. For those of you who don't know, my friend Jinx DeGen came up with the idea of me doing a video on this and explaining how these guns would work in real life. A disclaimer, by the way, I have not played the video game The Last of Us yet, so my information is coming off of looking up videos on the internet and going to various websites and reading about the game myself. So there might be something I get wrong about the game. Guys, you have the comment section there. Please correct me. Also, something I want to get covered right off the bat, if you're a video gamer who's considering buying a firearm because you've seen it in a video game, while I highly encourage this, I am going to, as the video goes along, put certain, safety precautions in the video, so pay attention to those as well. Because you're going to want to hear them. That being said, I'm all in favor of it, but I'm in favor of you guys doing it right, doing it safely, so nobody gets hurt, or nobody gets traumatized or anything like that. Alright. Another disclaimer I'm going to put in, yes, I am going to have certain parts of video game which I'm going to point out where they get certain things wrong. I'm going to point out some positive points about the video game that I noticed as well. So when I'm getting critical of the video game, guys, don't take it to heart. Don't take it as I'm saying it's a shitty video game or something like that. I'm just stating where they get something wrong. And in fact, I'm actually going to start off on this as well. One of my major things I noticed on the video game and what they got wrong on, and a lot of video games do this, is magazine capacities. It seems like looking at the guns in that video game that they were really under capacity for what the firearms would really hold. And I understand that there are some video games where they go with a ridiculous capacity, or they go ridiculously over on the capacity as well. So that also happens, but I noticed this particular game, most of the firearms tend to be under capacity. The next thing, and this goes beyond video games, is that it seems like a lot of people don't know what a magazine is and what a clip is, and they use the words interchangeably. A magazine not only holds the ammo, but it assists in feeding the ammo into the chamber. So this is a magazine. This is not a clip. Now, what a clip is a clip simply holds the ammunition. Now, this is a 8-round en-bloc clip for an M1 Garand. So yes, when you're loading another clip into your M1 Garand, using the word clip is actually the correct term. Loading another magazine into, say, your AR-15 is the proper term, and you would not use clip. I understand people use them interchangeably. It really gets on my nerves. It really does, because, it is just too easy to find the difference out and use the words properly. Yeah, it does drive me up a wall. And for those of you who are wondering, this is a tubular magazine. It's a fixed magazine. Basically, you can see you load the shells into the bottom right here, and they go into the tubular magazine, and then when you rack the slide, it would pull a round out of the magazine and then put it into the chamber. So it's still a magazine. On revolvers, revolvers don't have a magazine. This revolving cylinder has 6 separate chambers. So as you know, you draw the hammer back, you notice the cylinder rotate, and you see which chamber lines up with the barrel and the firing pin. Just a bit of a food for a thought there. So my next criticism on this is a lack of a run-of-the-mill NFA Title I AR-15. Now I understand that there are only so many guns you could put in the video game, but with their semi-automatic rifle being a Ruger Ranch rifle, or basically the Mini 14, and them having stuff like the Desert Eagle in there, which we'll cover in this video as well, it just makes more sense, realistically speaking, that there are more AR-15s. And I know if this video gets any sort of views, somebody in the comments section is going to say, well, what about the assault rifle, or what about the military assault rifle that is featured in the video game? Well, it's true, it is an Armalite platform. It's a different model entirely. And those aren't available to the civilians like a run-of-the-mill NFA Title I AR-15 would be. So, with that being said, that is going to be one of my criticisms, though. I guess if they had the proportionate number of AR-15 owners, it would kind of make that outbreak a lot harder to spread, so to speak. So, I mean, I can understand why a lot of apocalypse video games and apocalypse films don't portray many people with AR-15s, or if any. But I'm just saying, realistically speaking, there are over 20 million of these things in circulation. So, or at least to my knowledge. So, yeah, I do think that it would be more realistic if video games like this had AR-15s in them. The next one I want to cover is on the sound suppressors, or as most video games and movies call them, silencers. So, I'm very well aware that the person who was credited with inventing the first commercially produced sound suppressor, called it a silencer, marketed it as a silencer, so on and so forth. I think he was making a misnomer with this. The design of a suppressor is basically very similar to the design of a muffler on your car. They're doing basically the same thing. They're trapping hot expanding gases, and that's what reduces the sound. Now, depending on the design of the suppressor, the type of round you're using, and everything like that, even down to the basic rifle, will vary on how quiet that firearm is while it's being suppressed. If you have subsonic ammunition for the firearm, or you're using a smaller round that's burning off less powder, yeah, it's going to be less noisy suppressed. Even using bolt-action rifle versus semi-automatic or full automatic rifle will definitely help it suppress better. I mean, for a number of reasons. If you're using something that's either semi-automatic or full automatic, you'll notice that some of the gas is going to escape through the ejection port. In fact, more gas is going to actually escape through the ejection port when shooting it suppressed than unsuppressed, generally speaking. Also, you guys hear that? That happens every time it cycles around, so you're going to have that noise in there as well. And this particular rifle, believe it or not, shooting it suppressed, you still should have hearing protection in, because it's still loud enough, even with the suppressor on it, to do hearing damage. Now, certain firearms, the rounds are smaller. You're using subsonic ammunition, and so on and so forth. You might be able to shoot without hearing protection on. However, most firearms, even with a suppressor, they reduce the volume of the round, and it does reduce the amount of hearing damage done, but you still want to wear hearing protection. Another misconception, by the way, I've noticed when it comes to video games, at least, is supposedly when the firearm has a suppressor on it. In some cases, they say that, you know, in the video games, that it reduces the damage it does. For most sound suppressors, that's actually not true. I'll explain the bit of reality it's grounded in a second. But actually, with most suppressed firearms, the round is actually going to be traveling just a little bit faster coming out of that suppressed firearm versus the firearm without the suppressor on it. Now, the bit of reality, the reduced damage where the suppressor is based on is some of the earlier designs for sound suppressors used rubber bafflings, and basically the round would have to go through the rubber baffling, thus slowing the round down. That would be one reason, and then the other reason, would be if you're using subsonic ammunition for that suppressed firearm. If it's, say, like a 5.56, you have to get specialized subsonic ammunition. Well, the round's going to be traveling slower and probably going to be carrying less kinetic energy. So that's where that comes from there. So that video was me shooting the Colt Commando, both suppressed and unsuppressed. As you can tell, even suppressed, the firearm does make a significant amount of noise when being fired. So, moving on from this, now we're going to get into some of the guns in the video game, and what I want to start off with is the revolver that the protagonist carries. It appears to be a Taurus Model 66, chambered at .357 Magnum, and it appears to have the snub nose on it. It does actually have a 6-round capacity to it, so the video game did get that right, at least for the single player. The multiplayer mode, however, it has 7 rounds. Now, the Taurus Tracker also has a 7-round capacity, but the Model 66 only has a 6-round capacity. So, I don't have either models of Taurus, but I do have a Colt Python chambered in .357 Magnum, and as you can see right there, that is what it would look like. Now, the cylinders on the Colts, say, revolve clockwise, whereas the Tauruses, and I actually do have a Taurus Raging Judge, chambered for .454 Cazul, as well as .45 Long Colt and .410. Now this one, as you can tell when I pull the hammer back, you see the cylinder rotate counterclockwise, and that is true of Tauruses and Smith & Wessons at least. I thought I'd throw that little fact in there. So, I do think they did a good job with that particular revolver, though one caveat to it with snub-nose revolvers. especially the ones chambered in things like 357. Those things are going to jump, and they do take a lot of practice to shoot accurately. This is why it's one of my pet peeves when somebody is wanting to get a firearm for their girlfriend. They immediately just go for the 38 special with a snub nose. It is the worst firearm just to go and hand to somebody starting off. You know, well, maybe not the worst. Obviously, I'm being a little bit hyperbolic on this one, but it's not a good choice. Alright, so the next pistol I want to discuss is Ellie's pistol. Now, that appears to be based off the Beretta Model 70. So, right off, video game calls it a 9mm. In real life, the Beretta Model 70 is chambered in either 22 LR, 32 ACP, or 380 ACP. Though to be fair, in Europe, the 380 ACP is basically the 9x17 Kurtz. However, it's not the colloquial 9mm that everyone is used to, the 9x19 Luger, which I have here. Unfortunately, I don't have any 380 ammo here, so I couldn't put it side by side. But basically, the big difference between the 380 ACP and the 9x19 Luger is that the 380 is a little bit shorter than the 9x19. Alright, so the next category of firearms I want to get into are going to be the ones in this game that are chambered in 12 gauge, and there are 4 of them. I did not specifically use the term shotgun in this one because there is one that technically under federal law is not counted as a shotgun. It's counted as an AOW smoothbore pistol. Yeah, I know. Speaking of which, by the way, I'm going to take a moment to give a legal precaution on these things here. And you're going to get to learn a little bit about NFA law. If you do not know about NFA law and you're purchasing a shotgun, don't modify it. I'm just going to tell you that much right now, because there are certain things you can do to it that will make it NFA Title II. Going to give an example right here. You have this NFA Title I firearm. Notice how I did not say shotgun. Under NFA law, this is not a shotgun. Furthermore, any type of modification you can do to this just about could put it into NFA Title II category, and most likely will. If you get a stock put on this, it makes it a short barrel shotgun. If you put a pistol grip on this instead, it makes it an NFA Title II smoothbore pistol. This is one of those firearms that really pushes up on the edge of being NFA Title II while not actually crossing that line. Safety precautions. This is a big thing, obviously. If you're purchasing a firearm, you already should know the 4 cardinal safety rules. And when it comes to 12 gauge, 12 gauge has got a variety of different shells, right? You have 2 3/4, you have 3 inches, you have 3 1/2 inches, and you actually, I think, have some ones that are shorter than 2 3/4. With that being said, when you buy a shotgun or anything chambered in 12 gauge, you need to look at the chamber and find out which shells it can handle. And then don't put anything bigger than what is written on the chamber. If the chamber says 3 inches, don't put a 3 1/2 inch shell in there. I know this is common sense, guys. You know, most of y'all are like, wow, Is he really going out and spelling this out to us like we're retards? My apologies, guys. I'm not saying any of y'all are stupid. I'm not trying to imply that or anything like that. I'm just spelling it out because there's always one person somewhere that invariably does make a mistake like that. You can go on the internet and see plenty of videos of people doing that, unfortunately. The other thing is pay attention to the choke on the shotgun. If it says cylinder or improved cylinder, you can fire slugs out of there, but if it has any other type of choke on there, don't fire slugs out of it. Furthermore, there's a variety in loadout. You have things like 2 3/4 number 8 birdshot. They're not going to have quite so much recoil. However, you get a 3-inch double-aught buck, that's going to have a significant more amount of recoil than the number 8 birdshot that's in a 2 3/4 shell. So just a little FYI here. So, that being said, we'll start off with the first shotgun that I want to talk about is the double barrel. Again, as I say, I mean, it looks like a basic coach gun. These things are real fun to shoot. Personally, me, I would not want to use them to protect myself as a first choice anyway. If I have other options out there, I'm probably going to go with the other options, depending on what they are, obviously. But it's just the double barrel side by side. Given all the other options you have out there, is not going to be my first choice for a personal protection shotgun. So, moving on to the shorty, that appears to actually be an auto loader or semi-automatic shotgun. At least from the basic appearance. I could be wrong on that one. But that's actually the one that's not classified as a shotgun under federal law. It's considered an AOW smoothbore pistol. That one you actually have to have a bunch of extra paperwork to legally own. And in certain states you can't legally own that. So that one, again, as I say, wouldn't be a first choice either. Just when you have other options out there. The next one is the regular shotgun that is used in the single player. That one appears to be based off the Mossberg 500. And I have one, I just don't have it here. It's on loaner to a friend. So I can't show you it in this particular video. However, if you guys go back and look at some of my previous videos, I think there are some videos where I have it here. But you know that the shotgun in this game is just a run-of-the-mill Mossberg 500. It appears to be. Mossberg 500s, they vary on their capacity depending on the configuration they're in. They can be anywhere from 5+1, meaning 5 in the magazine, 1 in the chamber, to 7+1. 7 in the magazine, 1 in the chamber, obviously for 2 3/4. But it's a very versatile shotgun. The Army uses the Mossberg 500, you know, for various purposes. It's a very common shotgun, and actually that is a good choice for a home defense shotgun. And the last but not least is the tactical shotgun. Now, I understand that this is a favorite on the multiplayer mode of the game. Basically, the tactical shotgun is based off the FN Police Tactical. The capacity on that, 1 for 2 3/4, is 7+1. The video game obviously reduces this capacity. However, it's pretty good design. Now, that being said, I understand, or I've been told that people in multiplayer like to use that to kind of snipe a little bit. Reality is that shotguns are close-quartered weapons. They have a smooth bore, and even with the double-aught buck or the triple-aught buck, you're not going to get much range out of them when compared to rifles. With that being said, they're devastating at close quarters. I mean, it's just how 12-gauge shotguns are. But I guess if you wanted to improve the range on a shotgun or get more range out of it, some models do have aftermarket rifle barrels that the BATFE has ruled to be shotgun barrels and not destructive devices, and then you use that in conjunction with the Sabo slug. You'll get a bit more range out of it. Still, when you're talking about longer ranges, you're still going to want to use a rifle. And while I'm at it, I'm going to answer a question as to why slide action shotguns are more popular than semi-automatic shotguns, and that goes with the simple fact that the 12 gauge has a wide range of shells that you can use with it. And if you get something semi-automatic, there's only going to be a limited range of shells that will actually cycle properly in the semi-automatic version of the 12 gauge. Whereas the slide action, you're still going to be able to handle a wider range, and you're still going to be able to cycle those particular shells effectively. Alright, so as you guys can tell, that's the full auto rifle from the game. Now, I did take the liberty to circle a few points on there. Obviously, in a post-apocalyptic society, 20 years after the apocalypse, people are probably going to be modifying guns and trying to use whatever they can to assemble a functioning firearm. I get that. What I'm going to presume this particular one is a modified AK-74U. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt on this one. By the way, here's a picture of the AK-74U. As I said, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt on this one and hope that it wasn't an AK-74M or an AK-47, because if that's the case, they just chopped the piston in half and the rifle's no longer going to cycle anymore. So, on that one, what I'm noticing there is it's really doesn't do much good to have that M16A2 carrying handle on there. The fact of the matter is that it's only got the rear sight aperture, and you don't have any front sight posts. But you also have the rear sight aperture for the AK-74 on there, which the A2 rear sight is blocking now. And it really doesn't matter if you don't have a front sight post anyway. That is the one part of the sights that you really need if you want to try to aim that rifle in any sort of fashion, or even point that rifle in any sort of fashion. It doesn't do much good to have a rear sight and no front sight. Furthermore, I think in the video game, they did reduce the magazine capacity for that as well. Just so you know, the picture of the rifle that's shown for the video game, it appears to be a 30-round magazine. So, alright, so that was an image of the semi-auto rifle. Now, as you can tell from the image, the magazine in it appears to be a 30-round magazine, whereas in the game, they say it has 7 or 8 rounds, I believe. But now the magazine featured in that picture appears to be a 30-round magazine. The rifle itself that's there, it actually exists. It is called the Ruger Mini 14. It's not as common as the AR-15, but it is still out there. It's still pretty common on the civilian market. So the burst rifle also appears to be an AK-74U modified. As you can tell, it doesn't have any sights. Now the magazine showed in the picture appears to be the 10-round magazine. However, in the video game it says it has 6 rounds. So, again, really reduced capacity. Now, I'm going to say on this one, I would find it hard to believe that there are so many AK-74 platforms in this country that they would be able to modify them, given the fact that the 74 platform never really gained any popularity in this country. Now the AK-47 platform anyway did actually have some popularity. Just the 74 came along a lot later, and while, yes, start of this game's apocalypse happened in 2013, and the 7.6, which is a standard 5.45 by 39 round, which the AK-74 uses, was banned in 2016. Well, banned for import anyway. So, again, this is where I kind of think that the game developers probably could have taken a better choice on the type of firearm to modify. Now, looking at the burst pistol closely, it appears that the lower receiver for it is a G18 slower receiver or a G17 slower receiver. Meanwhile, the upper receiver for it is an HK USP pistol. Now, both of those pistols do have, obviously come in 9mm. Obviously, the G18 is 9mm, and the USP, there is a version of it that's 9mm. However, if you look at the lower receivers, and I realize this is a G19, not a G17 or a G18, however, they've got a very similar lower receiver. It's all the same basic design. And you look at the USP lower receiver, well, you can tell that they're two different. You can look on the lower receiver for the USP and see this external hammer. With a G series pistol, you can't because the Glocks are striker fired. Why is this important? This button right here where the hammer falls down on is what strikes the firing pin. If you don't strike that button, it doesn't strike the firing pin. So that's why I have a hard time believing that the burst pistol would actually work in real life. Okay, so for those of y'all who've been following my channel, well, you knew this is probably coming up. The Enforcer in the video game is the Desert Eagle in real life. Now, before we dive into this a little bit, I want to put out a safety disclaimer. For those of you guys who were or are looking to purchase a firearm in the future, and you wanted to get something because you saw it on a video game, this is not the first gun to get. Not by a long shot. You need probably a little more experience before trying to fire one of these things, due to the fact that this is a very powerful round, and due to the fact that there are additional dangers with having a round like the 50 Action Express in a handgun like this. And this is coming from somebody who has fired this thing one-handed numerous times. Okay. So, I wasn't born with a Desert Eagle in my hand doing that. It did take a little bit of work and experience to get to that point. I'm not trying to discourage anyone from buying a Desert Eagle or owning one themselves. In fact, I think they're fun guns to have. They're definitely interesting guns. And if that's the model you want, I want you to have that. I want you to also be safe about what you're doing. And I want you to actually, enjoy it, without firing it once, hurting yourself or somebody else, and then not ever firing another gun again. To give you an idea on how powerful the Desert Eagle is, the 50 Action Express round is, well, this is a 9mm. This is a .44 Magnum. Alright. This was the most powerful handgun round on the planet when Dirty Harry was made in the 1970s. This is the 50 Action Express. As you can tell, the 50 Action Express is a little bit bigger than the .44 Magnum, and a bit more powerful than the .44 Magnum. So, it's definitely an awesome pistol to have in your collection. However, I'm under no illusions that this is more of a novelty to me than anything else. I wouldn't use it hunting. Obviously, I've got other guns that I would take hunting first for this one. I definitely would not try to use this to protect myself. The handgun in and of itself is bulky, it's unwieldy, it's got a lot of recoil. My follow-up shots are going to be slower. Now, with that being said, if I was going to walk out the door knowing I was getting into a gunfight, well, I would probably try to take an AR-15 with me or some sort of rifle with me. If, say, I didn't have the option of having a rifle and I had to take a pistol with me, and I knew for a fact that I was getting into a gunfight that day, well, I would probably be carrying this with me. This is the Mark 23. This was actually the only pistol of its class to be designed for offensive use. However, most likely, I'm going to be carrying something like this when I walk out the door, and I'm going to be carrying it concealed. Specifically because you don't get to pick and choose when you're going to get into a gunfight. Well, if you're doing that, then you're probably breaking the law, as is. But you don't get to pick and choose when you're a victim, or when you use that pistol defensively. It just happens. I mean, your assailant makes that choice for you. Alright, so the Frontier rifle appears to be a Marlin 1895 chambered in 4570. I don't have a Marlin 1895 chambered in 4570, but I have a Marlin 1894. This is chambered in 44 Magnum. Again, basic lever action rifle. What you do is you load the rounds into the tubular magazine like so, and then to chamber a round, you simply pull down on the lever and send it home, and a round should be chambered. Lever guns used to be used by the Army in the 1800s, and they were replaced by bolt action guns, which handled the bottleneck rifle cartridges a lot better, and those bottleneck cartridges tended to have a lot more range to them. Now, you can hit targets from further away with a 4570. However, the ballistic arc on that round is pretty high, to say the least. In fact, let me show you the ballistic charts on this to show you what I'm talking about. Basically, the further out you go, the more canning on your rifle you're going to have to do to make up for the drop that the round is going to subsequently have. The round in and of itself at close ranges is devastating what it would do to a human body. So, again, it's a pretty good round for hunting things like bear, moose, feral hogs. It drops feral hogs like a lightning bolt, to quote one of my friends. I think the last gun I'm going to cover in this video is going to be the assault rifle, aka the military assault rifle in this game. And basically what that is, or appears to be, is an M4A1 lower receiver with a M16A4 upper receiver on it. That will actually work. Problem I see with it is it's gonna, how do I put this, shift the balance of the weight more towards the front of the rifle, which, if you have to carry that for a long period of time, or if you have to aim that for a long period of time, it's going to be a little bit more of a pain to do. So, with that being said, if I had to make a choice on the rifle, I would either go with an M16A4 or an M4A1, but I would try to avoid combining the upper or lower receivers to either one of them. Alright, I'm going to wrap this up here. I'm aware that I didn't cover every single firearm in the video game. that's all right. But if there was one you guys really wanted me to cover, let me know in the comments section, and I might very well be able to do a follow-on video. If there are other questions you guys have, let me know. I'll do my best to answer them. Without feedback, I really don't know what you guys are thinking or what you guys are curious about or anything like that, so I can't really answer any questions or improve from here. So, with that being said, y'all take her easy now and have a great day.